and welcome to Lake Placid in New York. We're in the shadow of Mount Van Hoevenberg in the Adirondack Mountains, ready for the start of the Viessmann FIBT four-man bobsled World Cup season. Martin Haven and bobsled legend John Morgan alongside me in the booth. John, Lake Placid track has rarely been in better form than it is this weekend.
Well, World Cup luge last weekend, so they came off that week with great smooth ice. It's been cold. They've had a couple feet of snow. So the perfect winter conditions for perfect ice. Roofs on the track. It's going to be fast, as we saw in the women's competition where there was a track record set by Alana Myers-Taylor. Straight vertical drop. 20 curves is the real factor on this track. Long straightaway, get in. You have to get in, get down a four-man bobsled. Settle around this curve. There's a speed that you get right here on the exit of the curve. The speed there is more important than your start time. Cliffside, that's named after the old cliffside on the other track, 100 meters away from us. Whiteface, another curve named in the honor of the historic track from 1932. Now Devil's Highway. This is to its own right here. The speed into this part of the track, shady, big slingshot effect onto the bottom. Labyrinth, three-quarter combination, every track's got to have one. Now in a Benham's Bend, named after a Lake Placid legend. Stan Benham, who won 2 silver medals at the 1952 Winter Olympic Games in Oslo. Chicane, lots of pressure, hard. Watch this little tricky curve, 18-19. A lot of problems down there sometimes. Now we finish going in uphill. Andre Lange. Legendary Andre Lange, 2003 World Championships. That's a long time ago.
Track record broken this morning in women's bobsled, but as you say, Andre Lange's record from 2003 and the start record from 2005, a decade old pretty much. -5 degrees of ice temperature. It's cold, it's misty, around 90% humidity. You can feel the cloud around you up at the top of the track as the athletes warming up, getting ready for the start. There's Max Arndt, Germany's big hope in previous seasons, but it was young Francesco Friedrich, John Morgan, who won the two-man race yesterday. Wonder what the chances are he's going to go for the double here.
Just a matter of time before he becomes a dominant factor on this World Cup circuit.
Well, Nick Cunningham had a share of the lead in Heat 1 of the two-man race yesterday, ended up on the podium in 3rd spot. He's the first four-man sled off this season. Nikita Zakharov, Oscar's Melbardis, and then Stephen Holcomb dominating in North America in 2- and 4-man last year. New crew of athletes behind him. He finished in 6th position yesterday in the two-man. 4-man first World Cup race for Cody Basque, the young man who's been sliding here in Lake Placid since he was 8 years old, still in his teens, and he has now stepped up to the blue-ribboned event. We've got 2 sleds from Korea, we've got Switzerland, Russia, the Germans, and everybody else here to factor in. But the big crowd will be looking for a result from Team USA. And Cunningham might be the man to produce it here.
Well, it's time for Nick Cunningham to come out of Steve Holcomb's shadow like he did yesterday when he bested Holcomb and walked away with a bronze medal.
Big figure on the right there of Casey Wickline. And Wickline, they call him Holiday Hams in the team because of the size of his quads. He beasted the two-man start with Cunningham, James Reed and Sam Mitchner. So it's a whole new crew behind Cunningham, the man from Monterey, California.
All newbies, brand new guys. Holcomb's got to build the new world-class team like he had last year at the Olympics when he probably had the best team on the planet. He had the best start times at the Olympic Games, and that's why he won a bronze medal.
Here we go. Come on.
In, down, cohesive. I talked about that being Holcomb. Cunningham had a great team. I even spoke there in that first recap. But these are all brand new guys too for Cunningham. And the secret to bringing brand new guys into the sport is to make them realize the consistency factor is so important. Ooh, late there.
Cunningham a little loose in his second heat yesterday after a really nice first two-man drive.
Well, this sled knows how to get down the track fast. He won the 2009 World Championships here. This was the original night train sled. Cunningham's inherited it last year in January. This is the rabbit, first guy down the track.
Spoke about the pressure with Jasmine Fenlater this morning. She was first off in the women's race. She said extra nervy times, 54.58 slide. And that is just about a second away from the all-time track record.
That 2003 track record, well, that was set when there was about 1/3 of the number of roofs that are on the track now. I think that the roofs might have slowed the place down because no track record since 2003. Look at this to the Devil's Highway. These are big, big sleds. Now watch the back end of the sled here. He got off a little late, and the back end of the sled still a little bit airborne. Now into the curve, the labyrinth curve. Look at the pictures here when you're looking at the next part of the track and you're 90 degrees to the side. Lake Placid's not an easy place to get down.
Yesterday ran over a fan's hat in the final turn of the final run. That is now a team mascot. Nikita Zakharov of Russia, Yuri Chubakov, his two-man brakeman. They finished 15th, joined by Vasily Konjantenko and Alexei Zaitsev on the back.
We've seen Zakharov in the last 6 years on numerous occasions did not make the Olympic team. And the reason he doesn't make the Olympic team because he doesn't have very good starts, but he's been an experienced World Cup pilot. Unlike what we saw in the women's race when there was so many new people.
Russia in Sochi won two-man and four-man gold. At the head of the organization, their #1 driver for the last decade plus, John, has retired, so they now have to find a new superstar.
Well, this guy did very well last year. He was the reason the Russians qualified 3 sleds into the Olympic Games, beat out the U.S. for that 3rd and final sled. The U.S. only had 2. And this is the reason why, look, with a deficient start time, he's challenging Cunningham in the bottom. He might catch him. No. Going to be 300-400 down, but this was a good run for Zakharov. Impressive.
Second place for the Russian, just 0.03 of a second in it. Big grin from Pierre Luders.
Luders knows, but Zakharov did it on this track last year. The last race before they went to Europe, it was the qualification standard, and he beat out the, in fact, he finished like 6th or 7th. He came out of the 24 start position. So Zakharov likes this track. Look at the runner tips, look at the skid, look at the guys behind him. You don't want to see shoulders. Look at the heads, the transition, the G-forces, heads perfectly in there, all behind each other. That was a good run for Zakharov, or a bad run for Cunningham.
Well, Cunningham's was certainly a rattly ride. Zakharov looked a little smoother. Bit of a smile there from him, almost. Next up, the big threat in the next Olympic cycle in bobsledding is going to be Latvia. Oskars Melbardis and Dauman Streiskins, silver medal yesterday in the two-man. Arvis Vilkasta, Janis Strenger, 2 very experienced brakemen on the back of this crew. This 4 raced all season last year. They are epic starters.
I like saying this. The biggest, fastest athletes in the United States are in the NFL. The biggest, fastest athletes in Latvia are in this sled. Start. We thought this guy would have had a chance to win a medal in two-man last time at the Olympics, but he's still young, Mark. He still has a lot of years left.
He went to Vancouver as a brakeman. He's now gone to 1 games as a driver. That's the quick transition in this Latvian program.
Not bad. That's a very good transition. Into Benham's Bend, down the chicane. Speed, impressive.
78.4 miles an hour through the chicane.
Ooh, late there. Lost some time back.
Trying to keep the speed up, down to 1100ths the lead over Nick Cunningham, and at the line, 800ths of a second. Sanders Prusis on the left in the hat, the coach. So first 3 sleds down, covered by 1100ths of a second.
Normal for 4-man bobsledding. Hundredths of seconds, and it's the hundredths of seconds. It's all about the start time. Look at the spikes on these shoes. About 350 little 1/16 of an inch spikes are on the bottom of these altered track shoes, and that's the way you get the grip to come across the ice. Look at the feet coming down the exact same time. Choreography on ice, you talk about a start in bobsledding. Look a little high and shady. He lost time on the bottom. I think this is where it started. That slingshot effect, the bottom part of the track. I don't think he had it on the wrong side there. A little bit of a tap. 300
So Race leader, Oskars Melbardis of Latvia, thinking already about the second heat. Meanwhile, still thinking about his first at the top of the track is the man who ruled North America last year in 2- and 4-man, Stephen Holcomb. Justin Olsen behind him. A new brakeman, Alex Harrison and Aaron Surf Victorian in the 4-man.
Other than Olsen, this is the World Cup debut for these guys. Get in, get down. Around the first curve, watch the speed pop up. Speed, one thing is to get, look at that 54.2 kilometers an hour. Keep track of that. That's a telltale sign. 33 miles an hour is what it is.
Well, the rest of the Olympic 4-man crew are here in Lake Placid. Kurt Tomasevic, Stephen Langton up at the top of the track watching Holke. This is a fluid run so far.
This is in the night train too, and he's way back. Of course, he had the third best start time, 5:08. Going to need to really fly in the bottom part of the track to have a chance here.
The start wasn't the problem yesterday. He just didn't find the speed. I wondered whether the runner choice wasn't quite right. 125.5 is very good pace, though. 78 miles an hour.
Still falling back. Holcomb didn't start off North America this year like he did last year when he won 7 races out of 7. He'll struggle today to get near the medals with that run.
Well, that's tough for an athlete who expects so much from himself, but you've got to remember this is day 1 in 4 years leading up to the next games. No point peaking today. You want to peak in the World Championships in February. You want to aim towards the Olympics in 4 years.
Devil's Highway, watch the back end of the sled. He won't be the only person doing this. A little late, the back end comes off. Good transition into the next. Look at the chicane here. You can see some helmets behind him. Look at this. Look at the helmet. Look at the number 2 guy. That's Justin Olsen, his experienced former member of his gold medal team in 2010. But we saw a little. We shouldn't be seeing helmets there in that fast part of the track. That's the thing about the new team, the new crew.
Our second Latvian sled, another former brakeman, Oskars Kibamanis, Helvis Lucis, Vairis Raizups, and Vairis Leiboms behind him. Leiboms pushed Kibamanis into 12th place in the 2-man race yesterday. Again, in 4 years' time, this guy will be not just a top 10 contender, you think probably a top 6 or maybe even a medal hope for Latvia. This is his second full World Cup season starting here.
Get in, get down. Cat-like movements don't alter the sled, especially comes out of those grooves. 5:08. Very similar to Holcom's start time. That's a rough transition out of 3. Look at the way the guys are all riding in the sled. Remember we talked about seeing Justin Olsen? You don't see these 2, 3, and 4 guys. They're all tucked in there. Great aerodynamic proficiency here. Speed, not bad. Ooh, that's bad though. Whoa. Look at the heads, look at the aerodynamic. You'll see anything but the driver. A little bit of bouncing around in the back from the 3 guy. Speed, decent. 77.8 miles an hour.
Looking at 4th place finish ahead of Stephen Holcomb
by
for the Latvians.
Sandis Prusis in the middle. Famous Latvian driver.
Tell you what Prusis could have done with some of this horsepower behind him.
Yeah, if he had those start times, he might have set some many records
a
for
whole
him.
lot.
Watch this, 11, 12, 13, the labyrinth. Look how high he climbs. That's not the way you want to look at the next curve from the top of the lip of that curve. I'm telling you, that's...
3 brakemen there with their backsides higher than their heads, thinking it was all going badly wrong.
He saved it.
Chris Spring of Canada, formerly slid for Australia. Alexander Kopac's behind him. Derek Plug back in Springer's crew. And Josh Kirkpatrick. So a mixture of old and new for Canada 1.
Get in, get down. Watch for the speed. 54.6. One of the better speeds. Look at the speed in the left. 53.9. Now that means they had a start time, the worst start time so far. That's why they had the deficient speed. But you can have the best start time and not the best speed there, Martin. It's all about getting in that sled and getting down without altering it in any left or right direction. Ooh, that's late.
Really disappointed yesterday, only 14th in two-man. He was the standout for Canada all last season.
He had better start times. Everybody's rebuilding. It's the first year after the games. 124.5.
Not as quick as the last couple of sleds in the 125s.
77.4 miles an hour. Half second down. He'll be sixth. You know, he had the sixth best start time at the top of the track, and he had the sixth best finish time at the bottom.
Out of 6 sleds, just means he's last at the moment. He may struggle to finish top 10 here. Well, this is a tough track to get a 4-man down, John. The corners come at you so fast and the chassis is so long, it doesn't always stay on the ice.
It's a tough track to walk down in the summer, Martin.
Yeah.
Much less get one of these big trucks down. Look at the back end. Crossover, you know. I'll tell you something, TV doesn't do it justice. If you stand out there and watch with these sleds and how they sound, there's the standings.
Oscar's Melbardis, the leader by 800s from Nick Cunningham, who's again in medal contention. And Zakharov, the Russian, just 1100s back. Max Arndt for Germany with Kevin Corona, a new boy. Josh Bloom was on the 2-man yesterday, and Ben Haber on the back of the sled. In fact, it was Haber who was on the 2-man, not Joshua Bloom. So Max Arndt should be the #1 go-to guy for Germany based on experience. Yesterday, the race was won by Francesco Friedrichs as Arndt trailed in 8th spot.
Well, Max Arndt uses the 2-man to warm up for the 4-man. Secret start time. He's got to get top there. It is same as Hulk, a little bit off, but Max Arndt won the 2013 World Championship for Man Bob in St. Moritz, Switzerland, and he did it with average start times, but superior driving down the track. He is a 4-man specialist.
World Championships also threw up Friedrichs, didn't it, as a huge star for the future. He's already a junior two-time world champion.
Watch these speeds, 11 to 11. That means he's coming it back. Look at the lines. Look at that. That's perfect. That's as good as we've seen in that exit. 126.4, 78.6. Here he comes. This is what he does. He's a guy that can manufacture speed at the bottom. He's going to be the leader.
Max Arndt will take the lead for Germany at the line by 0.08 of a second. Jarval #2 of the weekend from Christoph Langen.
Another day at the office for Max Arndt.
Well, that's a great run from Max Arndt. Kept the speed on board below the labyrinth and just kept on accelerating.
Well, if you want to know how to do it, look at the runner tips. He snuck through there, didn't touch anything. Look at the speed. You wonder why he made a big comeback from that deficiency? There it is. He is the man with speed on the bottom part of almost any track you go to.
German-built FES sled, racking up the high numbers. Start draw #8 for Alexander Kazyanov of Russia with Max Mokrusov behind him. They finished 10th in the 2-man race. They're joined by Ilve Hutzin and Alexei Pushkarov. Again, all experienced horses behind him, so the Russians haven't had so much of a turnover in crews as some of the other nations.
See the holes in that push bar there? That's a weight thing. Get more weight out of the sled.
Any ounce you can save up high helps with the balance of the sled down low.
Kazyanov did what no athlete wants to do. Finished 4th in both the 2- and the 4-man competitions. In last year's Sochi Olympics, Holker beat him both times by 300ths of a second. And that's something I'm sure he thought about all summer. 600s, watch out. Kazyanov might be coming out saying, Zubkov's gone, it's my time to take over the Russian program. Look at this time. Second best start.
Good speed, no one quicker.
Coming out party for Kasanoff if he can hold it here. Not the speed though, he's gonna lose some back. This is gonna be right to the 100 now.
Arndt was half a kilometre an hour quicker. What will that translate into? 100th of a second, plus or minus. Maybe 600ths behind, 800ths behind, right in the mix.
That's still a great run for Kasanoff. This is a coming out season for him. Zubkov's retired. He's the big dog in the Russian program, and I think his results will support that.
Top 5 covered by 1900ths of a second. We've got a tie for second, Melbardis and Kasyanov, 800ths behind Max Arndt.
The start, 4 large men sprinting across the ice. Now watch the cohesiveness of the way they get in, get down with proficiency, and sit down before you alter. Look at the speed. Melbardis, the best speed, and then the second best speed. Now that's at a curve 1, they measure that speed. So you have to get in, get down, don't alter that great start time. The Russians did it perfectly.
Justin Cripps of Canada, standout brakeman, becoming standout driver. Last year he just ripped the world rankings apart, winning a race in the World Cup. Tim Randall, Brian Barnett and Ben Coquell on the sled.
Very, very great athletes in this sled. 5:05. Now Justin Cripps was in the 2010 games as brakeman, made that transition over. Usually takes a 4-year quadrennial for you to settle in before you make a coming out statement. But he did it last year in the last race of the World Cup before the Olympics. He won Codex, shocked everybody. And this is a very confident athlete.
Still green and shady, tied with Max Arndt for the lead.
And Arndt was a magician down here. He was a surgeon the way he cut this ice up down here. He's lost more big skid there. That's going to really cost him. He doesn't have the speed.
In the top 3 potentially. Down to 900ths behind. 100th off the leaders. 100th off the medals. And 4th place it is. 1600 slots right into medal contention.
If I could make a bet down in Vegas right now, I bet that this is going to be a dominant power in 4-man bobsled by the time we get to that next Olympics.
Well, the other thing is, if he tidies up that big skid through the chicane,
right
there's a 10th right there. That's what robs him of the lead of the race. Wow.
This is a lot of talent here, but it gets away from, this is the experience. Look at he tried to get away from that wall. He tried to steer away, and that caused the spiral.
The back bunk hit, not the front. Yeah.
Skidding across the ice.
Cripps, great run, and a huge crew means an ultra lightweight sled to push as well. Now then, yesterday's 2-man winner going for double gold. Francesco Friedrich, 2- and 4-man junior world champion. Jan Speer, Martin Grotkop, new to the crew, and Torsten Margis, who was on the top step of the podium in the 2-man race yesterday.
Yeah. Wow. Speed, 54.6. 54.6, as expected, like the other sleds. Now, this is another superstar in the making. All 3 German pilots in the field are former junior world champions in the 2-man or 4-man or both. This kid, and he's a kid, he's young, 23, 24 years old, baby. And he still hasn't figured out the 4-mans yet. He's more of a 2-man guy right now, but he's got the 4-man figured out. Doesn't get the start times. Look at that. Look at that, though. He doesn't have great speed, but what a line through chicane.
Good enough. He's going to be in the top half dozen here as well. 1300s behind, but what momentum did he carry through to the line? 7th place, 54.64, 2/10 off the lead. And the nearest medal is 800s of the leader. So top 3 still covered by 800s, a tie for 4th, and then 6th and 7th are just 300s apart.
He's right there with Cripps. You're going to see him in 3 or 4 years from now be dominant in Korea. Look at the line. Look at all of the heads perfectly lined up. You don't even see those athletes back there. 18, 19, the transition, violent transitions on this track.
So, first of our 10 sleds successfully down. Max Arndt of Germany leads a titanically close battle. Ties for second, ties for fourth, a couple of hundred swings, 6th and 7th in Lake Placid.
Take 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning to Nico Wobbler,
So,
representing Team Germany.
expected front runners: Arndt, Tick, Melbardis, Tick, Kazyanov, Cunningham, Krips, Zakharov, yes. Francesco Frugic after yesterday, yes. But John Morgan, Chris Spring, the lead driver for Canada last year, and Stephen Holcomb, the lead driver for the USA for the last 4 years, lying in 9th and 10th places. Neither performed particularly well in two-man yesterday, both struggling again today. Is this new crew blues?
Well, Holcomb did do well in 2010-11 after his Olympic gold medal. He struggled in the 2010-11 season, getting new people. He did finish with a bronze medal in 2011 at the World Championships in Cunningham. Spring as the 10th best start, and he's in 10th place. That's the norm. But Holcomb on his home track, on a place where he's won 4 of the last 5 years. And now you look at it, he's got the 6th best start time, but the 9th best downtime. That's some post-Olympic blues right there, in my opinion.
Well, you've got to rebuild the team at some time, and this year seems to have seen a lot of athletes coming and going, a lot of drivers coming and going. The women's race, 10 of the 11 sleds had rookie World Cup brakemen in. Never started a World Cup race. Some of them hadn't even been on a bobsleigh track before this fall. So there's a whole new generation coming into the sport. John, that's what keeps us young. All these new young kids coming in, we forget that we're old enough to be their older brothers occasionally.
The athleticism in the sport, every quadrennial, new athletes come in. To see all those guys come through, the 172 headshots we did, oh my God, some of the athletes coming in the sport, it's impressive.
Attention, clear the track. The track is now clear from the finish to start number 1. And start 1 for Nico Wobbler.
Lake Placid, New York State, race 1 of the 4-man bobsleigh World Cup, and a brand new name. Never started a World Cup race in 4-man. Nico Walter, Marco Hubenbecker, the giant behind him, Andy Bredow, and a new brakeman, Berk Lerschke, on the back of this 4-man sled. John Morgan, this kid, another junior world champion, breaking out into the big leagues for Germany.
Yeah, he came out of Luge. They went out and won the 2- and 4-man junior worlds last year. Well, Marcus Huckenberger, there's 6'7". Watch him get down and act like he's 5'8", 5'9" in the sled. That curve has done this to experienced pilots. Now you just hope the athletes, this sled can come back up right here. No, that was the chance for it to come up. Now the athletes should stay in the sled. There it is.
Wow.
Second time. The athletes stayed in the sled. Now the most important thing, believe it or not, is he's going to get to the bottom. He's going to get a finish time if he can get it to the bottom. And that's important for World Cup standings. This is his first World Cup race.
Well, the other thing is,
look at his visors up.
The other thing is you get back on the horse that threw you right away. You don't even think about it all week till you get to Calgary. You get back in straight away.
Oh yeah, he's no problem. He was here at Luge, so he knows the track. It's not his first week of sliding. He was here for the German Luge team 4 years ago. Christoph Langen can on. Now we hope everybody's okay. Everybody's up. Yeah. Shows you the safety that you can't practice for crashing. You can tell people your natural instinct to what to do.
Listen, Hubie. Yeah, alles good.
Oh, he's look at him put his hands on his helmet. Look at on the right side of our screen. He should be on the other side of the screen. He comes in the middle part of the curve. Upper runner pressure. Maybe the team can save it. No.
Tries to let it run. Doesn't try to steer off hard.
And this is what you can't practice for. This is your athletic instinct and proper coaching. And they tell you to stay in the sled. A lot of times people panic in the back of the sled, eject out. These guys stayed in the sled. And good round of applause down here for the team. Not like Cool Runnings in Calgary, but the sled comes back up, and that's the most important thing, that they stayed in the sled. He's going to get a finish time and his World Cup results, which is very important. You qualify for the World Championships according to your World Cup ranking. If he would have got no points from this race, he would have been at a big disadvantage.
You saw Hubenbecker, the veteran, tapping him on the helmet saying, hey, don't worry, we've all been crashed before. You know, the driver hates it because in his hands, and Langen, as a former driver, he knows what that feels like. In your hands are your crew's lives, and you just feel so bad about it. He feels worse than the crew do.
But they finished.
Yeah. And actually, his head's sticking out further as well. He takes more of a hit.
There's Dr. Schneider, the German doctor, right over looking at his thumb. But we move on.
Track crew will have had a look at the surface, and it seems to be okay to continue. So Lamindine of Great Britain, Keith McLaughlin, Justin Oro-Campos, and Andrew Matthews are the crew. And of course, they know that the guy in front has just gone over. So any nerves are now tingling twice as much with those spidey senses. They are so keyed up to go.
Well, the guardian of the Queen is now in charge of this next sled.
Yeah. Day job as a guardsman in the British Army to guard the Queen. Now he's got to look after his crew.
Next, the crash. Next. Come on. Worth start time. That's his nemesis. He's learned a lot in the last 4 years. Come on, well qualified at the Olympics. Great personality. Look at the runner guard, the marks you're going to see all the way down the track, the marks that German sled that crashed.
There is a slight danger of tram lining from the runners following those guys, so Lamindine will have to be careful of that. This is a new team as well. The guys that were in John Jackson's GB squad for the last 3 or 4 years are really big starters. While they've moved on, Stu Benson, for instance, is starting to drive. Jacko back home, recovering from surgery with Paula Walker and their new baby.
Congratulations to both of them. Hope they're listening.
They will be. They were yesterday. Jacko wanted to know what the start times were. 55.15. There's Pete Gunn. And he and former brakewoman Jackie have had their second child as well. So hi to them back home as well. 11th place for Lamindine.
He had the 9th best start, or he had the 12th best start, and he's at 11th. And of course, that's why Nico Walter crashed. That's the only person behind him. He's still learning.
Number 1, start 1 for Cody.
Look at the transition. End of the labyrinth. 13, then 14.
Busy track at Lake Placid.
They're going in and weighing. They're weighing all the sleds in the first round. Maximum weight, so it means you can have a huge crew.
Here's a kid that has been racing on this track since the age of 8. Made his World Cup debut yesterday in the 2-man. And maybe just a little bit of nerves got the better of him. Spoke to him yesterday evening. He was a bit disappointed with it all. Only 13th place. He's got Carlo Valdez, David Cremant, and Adrian Adams at the back of this US sled.
Kid's got talent to drive. He gets start times. He's got a chance.
They used to call him Little Cody Basque, not anymore.
Oh, he did a great job this summer strengthening, doing a lot of powerlifting. He got himself in really good bobsled shape over the summer. He knows if he wants to take it to the next level, he's got to improve at the start. Not only his team, he's got to find great athletes like these 3 new guys, but he's got to find it himself.
Well, you know, teenage boys, John, they just get bigger and stronger with every year, and that's what's going to happen to Cody as well.
Yeah, he's a little bit like John Napier, born and raised on the track.
Yeah.
And just great driving skills. His only challenge is going to be if he's able to start. Not being able to start puts you really bad position to sport. 12th. 76.
300s behind Lamindine of Great Britain.
But again, he had the 12th best start and finish at 12th. That's a lot of normalcy in bobsledding.
It's day 1 of his World Cup career in 4-man.
No, he was in the World Championships 2 years ago.
Yeah, but hasn't started a World Cup race.
I think he might have had one, but whatever. Here's 11, 12, and 13. The labyrinths. This is way too high. Boy, how many sleds we've seen like that. It's not like the curve was made for four-man sleds to go through. It's almost like you struggle to get through.
When 1980, when they designed the track, sleds were a whole heck of a lot slower.
2000, this track was designed.
But even so,
that one next door that I used to slide on, I'd hate to see what these sleds would be doing there. I don't think there'd be a lot of them finishing.
I don't think they'll be able to find a way down. Alexei Stulnev, Yuri Selikov, Pavel Utkin, and Alexander Soldatenkov. These are three new guys. 18th yesterday in the two-man. Stulnev.
Set a track from start number 1. Set a track. Alexei Stulnev, Yuri
Stulnev crashed curve 2. Elisa Walter crashed curve 3. Stulnev crashed at curve 2 the other day. And didn't come back up. That was a long way to the bottom of the track, upside down, and they reconditioned this sled. And here they are. The sled didn't look too good when I looked at it.
Just reminds you, John, you think there are certain key points on the track. Any corner on any track can catch you out. 1:16.4 is a couple of kilometers an hour off the pace.
Good line.
13th at the start, 12th at the moment, back down to 13th place. This is the slowest clean run, and he comes in 99 hundredths off the leader. But again, got to start the season by not parking the crew on their heads and getting a clean first run in. That's going to get rid of those nerves.
I think he's still a little nervous from that curve 2 incident earlier this week in training.
You don't think the crew was sitting there hanging on with their heads tucked going, get us down, get us down.
Yeah, look, there's some good aerodynamic profile on this team. Of course, Luders is coaching this team. This team's well coached. Those are some pretty good profiles from that team behind it. Oh, they sit low on those sleds.
Well, everybody knows the story of Cool Runnings, the team from Jamaica. This is just as unlikely a country to produce a winter sports crew. Brazil. We saw Edson Bigliatti and Odile Pisoni in the two-man race yesterday. We saw their women's crew earlier on today, and now the four-man sled comes out. And this is a World Cup debut for Brazil.
Former Olympic track and field athlete for Brazil. Edison Benaldi, the driver is. Big man, one of the biggest drivers out here.
Yeah, really tall figure.
I've been impressed with the Brazilians. They are persistent. They're serious athletes. He just keeps coming on and persistent.
They've outstarted 3 or 4 crews that have already gone down the track. He doesn't have as much experience as some of them of racing, but what he does have is here in North America, but that's wild, and he has to rescue that one late.
Not down yet.
1:14.7, not great speed, as you might imagine. Wild ride.
I'm telling you, if these people get some support, get some coaching, they get some equipment, they're going to be impressive by the time they get to career. They've got the athleticism, and boy, they have got the persistency, because they've been through a lot, and they have to do so much with so little.
See the brakemen immediately clambering upright in the sled, wide-eyed after that wild ride.
They want to get the brakes on. They're so big, all 4 of them. Keep your feet inside the sled, though, before you come to a stop, please.
3 very tall athletes. The brakeman at the back, Davidson D'Souza, is the shortest. It's a lot of body to fit into that little sled.
Watch these pictures. Maybe don't watch. Look at the back end of the sled. Whoa! That's as close as you can get of rolling into the curve. But he recovers. Recovery.
Edson, yeah, rode close to the edge there, but he managed to keep it on the runners. Now then, Kim, and Kim from Korea. Donghyun Kim, Kwembo, Kyunhyun, and Jinsu Kim are at 2, 3, and 4. Swiss coach.
Well, they were beyond impressive yesterday. They beat German sleds, they beat Russian sleds.
This is the 4 years where the Koreans really have to make the investment pay. And this is where it starts.
Story about, you know how much the Koreans dominate women's golf worldwide. They're so meticulous. Men's golf, they're pretty good worldwide. And they've taken the bobsled the last 3-4 years. They got the coaching, they got the equipment, they got a brand new track, and they were impressive yesterday. They're coming. They're going to have a brand new track. But these 4 guys that we saw 5 years ago, they're all skinny athletes. They aren't skinny anymore.
And they're recruiting hard as well. They've got a lot of financial support from big players back home. Daewoo on the sled, Hyundai will be supplying Korean sleds as they get to Europe after Christmas. 55-43 slides, 200s behind Alexei Stulnev of Russia, and that is David versus Goliath in terms of bobsledding nations. Korea, tiny new young program versus the Russians, who have been at this since before the Cold War, since before the wall went up, never mind since it came down.
The lines driving a 4-man a little different than a 2-man, but look at the heads behind them. There's not very good aerodynamic profile back there. You can see all 3 of the shoulders of the guys behind them. They should be get down behind them, but they're on a big learning curve.
Malcolm Lloyd, the coach, will be getting them to get that all sorted out. Rico Pater with Roar van der Zijde. Roar formerly pushed for the Netherlands. Thomas Amrijn and Simon Friedli on the back of this Swiss sled. Rico, great drive yesterday, 5th in the 2-man.
His teammate Beat Hefty, who did not medal yesterday, not competing in the 4-man, there's no doubt that he just doesn't like this track.
And he doesn't particularly like the 4-man either. He loves 2-man.
But he can do well in 4-man on them short 1,200-meter tracks at Innsbruck, Königssee, Winterberg, where the World Championships will be this year. It's not bad. In fact, 4th best start time. It's impressive.
Top 10 finish on the cards at the moment if he keeps it clean.
No speed.
Still in 10th spot, 124.9, barely quicker than the Koreans. Still in 10th spot. 10th spot it is, 54.89.
Not bad, but he had the 4th best start time. If you have the 4th best start, you should be in the top 5.
Well, he was in 5th spot yesterday in the 2-man. I wonder how much he can tidy up. How far away is 5th position? 0.3 of a second. I think it's going to take a little bit more than that from him.
Well, look at these 4 Swiss athletes. Watch the cat-like movements, I like to always say. Number 2 waits for the 3 guy to settle in. He brings his arms up, in, down. A little late there.
Ben Hefty at the front there, helping with the sled, so it's not like he's packed up and gone home. He just isn't racing. So our first heat being led by Germany's Max Arndt. 9th fastest start, but driving with all of his inspired confidence. John Morgan, he leads going into the 2nd and deciding run.
Yeah, and all he did was what he does better than anybody else in the world. He knows how to drive a 4-man sleds on the bottom part of these tracks. He knows how to find time, and I always put him in what I call my speed merchant club. He is really talented at high speeds in the sport of bobsledding.
It's all about what's between the ears once you get sat in the sled, and Max Arndt has got plenty going for him in terms of processor speed. He leads our first of 2 heats. Both will count, both will decide the medals. Top 5 covered by 1600s. We got a tie for silver, we got a tie for 4th. and the top half dozen are definitely not out of medal contention. Even Francesco Friedrich in 7th might end up on the podium for the 2nd time after winning yesterday's two-man. For the USA, Stephen Holcomb with some thinking to do. Chris Spring and Cody Basque for Canada and USA will want to find more pace in the 2nd heat, but they won't be alone. Lots of drivers with plenty to tidy up in Heat 2 here in Lake Placid. Join John Morgan and myself when we come back with the 2nd and deciding run from Mount Van Hoevenberg. Stay with us, live from the Adirondacks.